Fire, step into the night with unshakable faith. These powerful bedtime prayers will fill your heart with strength, ignite unbreakable hope, and cover you in God's peace as you prepare for restful sleep. Crescent, folded when the world feels heavy, declare victory in prayer, rise above fear, and let your spirit conquer every storm. These night prayers before going to bed are not just words. They are weapons of faith, lifting your soul and aligning you with God's promises. Sparkles, flex tonight, don't just rest with purpose, power, and His presence. When the night falls and the world quiets down, there's something sacred about the moment we lay our heads on the pillow. The busyness of the day has ended, and what's left is the silence that makes us face our thoughts, our worries, and our fears. It's in this space that prayer becomes more than just words. It becomes surrender. Think about it. Every single day we carry around burdens, responsibilities, disappointments, and sometimes even regrets. If we go to bed holding on to all of that, no wonder our sleep is restless. But prayer at night is the invitation to release it all. It's telling God, I don't need to carry this anymore because you already are. Surrender doesn't mean defeat. It means choosing rest over restlessness. It means recognizing that there are things in life far bigger than our control, and the best place for those things to be is in God's hands. When you pray before bed, you're making a conscious choice to stop wrestling with what you can't change and instead trust the one who can. That's why bedtime prayers are powerful. They're not just the closing ritual of your day, they are a transfer of weight from your shoulders to His. And once that transfer happens, peace follows. I know some nights it feels like your mind just won't stop racing. You replay conversations, think about tomorrow's responsibilities, or maybe wrestle with mistakes you made. But that's exactly where prayer interrupts the cycle. It's like stepping off a treadmill that never stops running. When you pause to pray, you're stepping into God's presence, and His presence breaks the pattern of anxiety. In that moment, He whispers, "Be still, I've got this, rest in me." Suddenly, the pressure of performing, fixing, or figuring it all out begins to lift. Prayer opens the door to rest because surrender is the key to peace. And let's be real, surrender isn't always easy. Our human nature tells us to hold on, to fight, to control. But the truth is, the strongest thing we can do is let go. Every time you whisper, "Lord, I give this to you," you're choosing faith over fear. You're choosing to trust that the God who never sleeps is watching over your tomorrow while you sleep tonight. That changes the way you see bedtime. It's no longer just the end of a long day. It's an act of worship. It's a declaration that says, I believe you're in control, and I don't have to be. This surrender also deepens intimacy with God. He doesn't just want to hear from us when things are falling apart. He wants to hear the small things too. He wants to hear about your gratitude, your joys, your questions, your doubts. Nighttime prayer is where you open your heart fully without distraction and allow Him to draw near. And the more you surrender to Him in those quiet moments, the more His peace becomes real in your life. Imagine what your nights would look like if you ended every single one of them with surrender. Instead of carrying stress into the darkness, you'd carry trust into your sleep. Instead of tossing and turning, you'd rest knowing the Creator of the universe is holding you. That's the beauty of bedtime prayer. It transforms sleep from something physical into something spiritual. It's no longer just closing your eyes. It's opening your spirit to God's peace. So tonight, as you prepare to sleep, don't hold on to what you're not meant to carry. Don't allow fear, regret, or anxiety to rob you of the rest God designed for you. Instead, choose surrender. Lay it all down at His feet in prayer and let Him cover you with His peace. Because the truth is simple. When you surrender to God at night, you wake up stronger in the morning. There's something remarkable about the way God designed our nights. The body slows down, the world grows quiet, and everything in creation points toward rest. But here's the truth. Sleep is not only about physical rest, it's about spiritual renewal. Prayer before bed doesn't just calm your mind, it strengthens your spirit. It equips you for tomorrow in ways that nothing else can. When you kneel before God at the end of the day, you're not just closing a chapter, you're receiving fresh power to rise again. Think about how drained you sometimes feel after carrying the weight of an entire day. Stress from work, family pressures, conflicts, and unexpected struggles can make you feel worn out. And if you try to sleep without connecting with God, you often wake up just as weary as when you closed your eyes. But when you take the time to pray, you're plugging into the ultimate source of strength. Prayer draws down heaven's power into your weakness. It's like recharging a battery. You don't just wake up rested, you wake up renewed. That's why night prayers matter so much. They don't just prepare you to sleep, they prepare you to rise, because what you bring into your rest shapes what you take into your tomorrow. When you pray for strength before bed, you're not asking for muscles or energy alone. You're asking for endurance, for resilience, for courage to face what's ahead. And God is faithful to give it. His word says His strength is made perfect in our weakness. So if you go to bed feeling empty, prayer is where you find yourself filled again. Have you ever noticed how burdens can feel lighter in the morning after you've prayed at night? That's not an accident. That's what happens when you hand your weakness to God and allow Him to trade it for His strength. The battles you felt powerless against don't look the same after you've rested in His presence. Prayer changes your perspective. What seemed overwhelming begins to look manageable because you remember you're not fighting alone. God goes before you, God stands beside you, and God fights for you. And it's not just about strength for the big things in life. Sometimes the strength you need is for the small, everyday battles, the patience to love your family well, the focus to finish the work in front of you, the grace to forgive someone who hurt you. Prayer at night gives you that strength too. It's God equipping you for both the mountains and the valleys, for the storms and the ordinary moments. Every prayer is a deposit of His power into your life, and nothing you face the next day catches Him by surprise. What's amazing is that even as you sleep, God is still working. You may be lying still, but He's aligning things in your favor. You may feel powerless, but His Spirit is fighting battles you can't even see. When you wake up in the morning, you're stepping into victories that were already being prepared while you rested. That's the kind of strength prayer unlocks. Not just strength to survive, but strength to overcome. So tonight, when you pray before bed, don't see it as a routine or a ritual. See it as your lifeline. See it as the place where weakness meets divine power, where weariness is replaced with holy courage. Ask Him for strength and believe that He will supply it in ways you can't imagine. Because the truth is this: when you end your day in prayer, you never wake up the same. You rise stronger, braver, and ready to walk in His victory. There's something about the night that makes challenges feel heavier than they really are. When the lights are off and the world is quiet, that's when the doubts creep in, when the worries echo louder, and when the darkness feels like it's closing in. But it's also in that very darkness that hope shines the brightest. Prayer at night is more than asking for rest. It's a declaration that no matter how dark it gets, God's promises remain unshaken. Think about it. Hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is rooted in the certainty that God is faithful. And when you pray before bed, you're not just talking to the ceiling. You're reminding your heart that the one who created the stars is still in control. Even when your situation looks hopeless, Prayer opens your eyes to see beyond what's in front of you. The darkness may be real, but so is the light of His presence, and that light has never been defeated by the night. Some of you know what it feels like to go to bed burdened, maybe even broken. You lay there with the weight of disappointment, the sting of failure, or the uncertainty of tomorrow. But that's exactly where prayer transforms the atmosphere. When you begin to pour your heart out before God, hope starts to rise. The weight begins to lift, not because the problems suddenly vanish, but because you're reminded that you are not facing them alone. Prayer plants hope like seeds in your soul, and just like any seed, it may not look like much at first, but in time it grows into something unshakable. Hope whispers things like, "This isn't the end." Hope reminds you the morning is coming. Hope assures you that what feels impossible is still possible with God. That's the kind of perspective prayer gives you before you fall asleep. Instead of closing your eyes in despair, you close them in expectation, knowing that God is already working behind the scenes. Hope reframes the darkness. It takes the longest nights and reminds you that dawn is always on the horizon. And here's what's powerful: hope doesn't just carry you through the night, it prepares you for tomorrow. When you pray with hope, you're not just asking God to fix things, you're choosing to believe He already has a plan. You're reminding yourself that the God who brought you this far is not about to leave you now. That kind of hope gives you courage. It gives you strength to face the day ahead because you know the story isn't over yet. I know some nights feel endless. The pain feels too deep, the silence too loud. But even then, hope is alive. Prayer keeps that hope burning like a flame that refuses to go out. And sometimes that flame is all you need to make it through until morning. Because once the morning comes, new mercies come with it. The darkness never gets the final word, so don't let the night steal your hope. Don't let the silence convince you that God is absent. He's closer than you think, and He's working in ways you cannot see. Prayer is the bridge between your present struggle and your future breakthrough. It keeps you anchored when everything around you feels uncertain. And the more you pray, the stronger that hope becomes until it carries you straight through the darkest night. Tonight, as you close your eyes, choose hope over despair. Let prayer be the voice that drowns out fear. Trust that even in the darkest hour, God is already preparing the light of a new day. Because no matter how deep the night may seem, hope in Him will always rise with the morning. One of the greatest struggles many people face when they lay down at night is not the body's exhaustion, but the mind's refusal to quiet down. The body wants to rest, but the thoughts keep running in circles. Worries about tomorrow, regrets from the past, and fears that seem larger in the silence of the night rob so many of the peace they desperately need. And yet, this is exactly why prayer before sleep is so powerful. It takes the noise of the mind and places it in the hands of the one who gives true peace. Peaceful sleep doesn't come from the perfect mattress, the right lighting, or even the absence of noise around you. Peaceful sleep comes when you've decided to trust God with what you cannot control. It's a choice to say, I may not have all the answers, but I know the one who does. When prayer leads the way, your mind finds rest because your heart knows you are safe in His hands. Think about how many restless nights you've had simply because you kept holding on to things you weren't meant to carry. Maybe it was a conflict you couldn't resolve, a deadline that felt overwhelming, or an uncertainty about the future that weighed you down. The moment you choose to trust God in prayer, you are letting go of those things, and in exchange, He gives you a peace that no circumstance can shake. That's why Scripture says His peace surpasses all understanding. It doesn't always make sense, but it always works. It's almost like a child falling asleep in a parent's arms. The child doesn't need to know if the bills are paid, if the house is secure, or if tomorrow's meals are prepared. They rest because they trust the parent. In the same way, we are invited every night to rest in the Father's arms. When you trust Him, you don't have to figure out every detail before closing your eyes. You can sleep because He is awake. You can rest because He never rests. And this kind of trust doesn't just help you sleep better. It transforms how you live when you wake. A heart that has learned to trust God at night is a heart that rises stronger in the morning. When you've rested in His peace, you face the day with confidence instead of fear. You're not weighed down by what you couldn't solve yesterday. You're lifted by the assurance that God is already in your tomorrow. Prayer becomes the doorway into this trust. Each word you speak is a reminder to your soul that you are not in charge of everything, nor do you have to be. You lay down not just your body, but also your burdens. And when you do, the mind calms, the spirit quiets, and the body follows into peaceful rest. That's the kind of sleep that heals, restores, and prepares you for a new day. So tonight, when your head hits the pillow and the thoughts try to crowd in, stop and pray. Hand over the worries. Release the fear. Surrender the things you cannot change. Remind your heart that God is in control, and let that truth settle deeper than your doubts. Because when trust leads the way, peace will always follow. The night may come with its shadows, but those who trust in Him rest in light. Sleep well, because peace is not found in the absence of problems. It's found in the presence of God. There's something deeply comforting about remembering that while we sleep, God never does. We may close our eyes, but His watchful gaze never leaves us. The truth is, every night we lay ourselves down in a vulnerable position. We're unaware, unguarded, and unable to defend ourselves. And yet, night after night, we wake up because the Lord Himself has been our protector. That is why prayer before bed is not only about peace. It is about placing ourselves under His covering and trusting His protection. Think about how often we try to secure ourselves with locks on our doors, alarms, or careful planning. Those things matter, but they are limited. True safety doesn't come from man-made protection. It comes from God's hand shielding us. When you pray before bed, you're not just asking for sweet dreams. You're inviting heaven's armies to stand guard over your life. You're acknowledging that the God who commands the angels is the same God watching over you while you rest. So many people go to bed weighed down with fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of danger, fear of what tomorrow might bring. But prayer transforms that fear into trust. It says, I may be asleep, but my God is awake. I may be vulnerable, but my God is strong. When that truth sinks in, fear loses its grip and rest becomes possible. You don't have to lie awake with your mind spinning in anxiety, because you know the one who neither slumbers nor sleeps is covering you. It's also powerful to think about how God protects not only our bodies, but also our hearts and minds. The enemy often attacks us most fiercely when we're tired, filling our thoughts with worry or even using dreams to stir fear. But prayer builds a hedge around our minds. It fills the atmosphere with His peace, making room for dreams that align with His Spirit instead of the enemy's lies. When you pray before bed, you're not just securing your physical safety, you're safeguarding your soul. And this protection extends beyond yourself. When you lift up your family, your home, and your loved ones in prayer, you are declaring that your house belongs to God. His presence becomes the shield around those you love. That's why a parent's bedtime prayers for their children are so powerful. It's like placing them directly in God's hands before they sleep, trusting that He will guard them in ways you never could. What makes this truth even more beautiful is that His protection is not passive. It is active. While you rest, He is moving things, aligning circumstances, and keeping dangers at bay that you'll never even know about. You may think you simply made it through another night without incident, but in reality, His hand was covering you every second. His angels were standing guard when you couldn't lift a finger to protect yourself. That's the kind of God we serve. So, when you kneel in prayer at night, remember that you are not praying into empty air. You are inviting the covering of a living God who defends, shields, and sustains. You are stepping into the assurance that no weapon formed against you will prosper, not even in the vulnerable hours of the night. Tonight, as you lay down, don't let fear rule your rest. Don't allow uncertainty to keep you awake. Pray with confidence, knowing the same God who carried you through the day is the same God who will cover you through the night. Close your eyes, knowing this simple but life-changing truth. The safest place you will ever sleep is under the protection of His presence. Every day we walk through brings its own set of challenges, victories, and lessons. Some days feel heavy, others feel lighter, but each one leaves its mark on us. That's why the way we end the day matters just as much as how we begin it. Bedtime prayers are not just a habit. They are a moment of renewal, a chance to reset our hearts before stepping into tomorrow. It's in that quiet space before sleep that we let go of the weight of the day and make room for God's fresh grace. Think about how often we carry unfinished business into the night, unspoken words, unresolved emotions, unfulfilled tasks. All of these can clutter our spirit. But prayer clears the slate. When you come before God at night, you're giving Him permission to take the pieces of the day and weave them into something good. You're saying, I don't want to carry yesterday into tomorrow. I want to wake up ready for what's next. That's the power of renewal. Prayer doesn't just help you survive another day. It prepares you to thrive in the one to come. This renewal also reminds us that every day is a gift. No matter how difficult today was, tomorrow is another opportunity to walk in His promises. Night prayers prepare us to embrace that gift by emptying ourselves of everything that would weigh us down. The bitterness, the stress, the self-doubt, all of it loses its hold when you place it in His hands. You close your eyes lighter than you opened them because you've exchanged your burdens for His grace. It's amazing how even the smallest act of surrender can create such a profound shift. A whispered thank you at the end of the day is a seed that grows into gratitude by morning. A short prayer of forgiveness can release years of hurt. A simple declaration of trust can carry you through storms you haven't even faced yet. Renewal doesn't always come with loud, dramatic moments. It often comes in those quiet, consistent prayers before sleep. And what makes this rhythm so beautiful is that God's mercy is new every morning. That means no matter how yesterday looked, no matter what mistakes you made or battles you fought, you are invited to begin again. Bedtime prayer is like closing the book on one chapter, so you can open another without dragging the past into the future. It's a sacred pause between what was and what will be. This renewal also affects how you live your days. When you pray at night, you become more aware of God's presence in the little details of your life. You start to see how He carried you through moments you didn't even notice at the time. That awareness fuels gratitude, and gratitude fuels hope. By the time you wake up, your perspective has shifted. You see the new day not as a burden to dread, but as a blessing to embrace. Even science tells us that rest is where healing happens for the body. how much more true is that for the soul? Prayer before bed is like spiritual rest. It heals the weariness of the day and strengthens you for the journey ahead. You wake up not only physically restored, but spiritually realigned, ready to face what's next with fresh courage and clarity. So tonight, as you prepare to sleep, don't just collapse into bed with the weight of the day still on you. Take a moment to renew yourself in prayer. Release the past 24 hours into God's hands and receive the grace He has waiting for you in the next. Because the truth is this: every night is an ending, but every prayer turns that ending into the beginning of something new. As you prepare to rest tonight, remember this: powerful bedtime prayers for strength, hope, and peaceful sleep are not just words. They are lifelines connecting you to God's presence. Each prayer surrenders your fears, renews your spirit, and covers you with His protection. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but tonight you can close your eyes with confidence, knowing you are held in His hands. Don't just go to sleep in peace, in hope, and in the strength only He provides. Rest deeply, because His promises stand guard over your night and His mercies await your morning.